Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Alison Maloni. It's time now for our financial focus with our money men, business and market analyst and NewsMax contributor Seth Denson, and America's accountant and professor at Montclair State University, Dan Geltrude. Gentlemen, welcome to the show today.
Good to see you.
All right, so today's topic, as Afghanistan runs out of food, does that mean that China is coming to the rescue? First, Dan, we'll start with you. Tell us what does this even mean, and how is China involved in all of this financially?
Well, our retreat out of Afghanistan has created a huge vacuum, and that vacuum means opportunity for China. So they're going to step in. Now, China has changed its methods since their military takeover of Tibet in 1959, where they simply invaded. They do things a little bit differently. Why? Because they think in terms of centuries, not election cycles. So what they're doing here is moving from the stick to the carrot. They step in and try to provide the basic needs that the Afghani people are going to need. And what does China get out of this besides poking the United States? Similar to Tibet, there are natural resources that China wants. And when they get their hands on them, they're going to use them towards moving towards world domination.
Yeah, exactly what they want. Seth, you wrote an article for NewsMax saying Afghanistan is China's next stop on the road to global dominance. Your thoughts, obviously, this article, I read it. It drew a lot of attention because I really wasn't thinking that China really was going to be involved. But talk to us a little bit more about your article.
Well, yeah, listen, the purpose of that was really to shine a light on the fact that while the rest of the world, and specifically the United States, is playing a game of global checkers, so to speak, thinking really one move ahead, Dan mentioned it, China's playing a game of chess. They are thinking many moves ahead, and they are strategically moving pieces on the chessboard. In 2013, China launched what's called its Belt and Road Initiative, or its New Silk Road. They're not bashful about this. They actually published their plan, and the idea here was to make significant foreign investment across the globe, but specifically throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, the Pacific Islands, Australia. And the idea is that China would be at the center of that financial investment. But this is a debt trap, and they're targeting countries that won't be able to repay the debt so that they can take over. We're already seeing it throughout Africa, whether they're taking over airports or power grids in Laos. They're taking land leases in places like Kenya. And this is happening right now, right underneath our eyes. And as Dan alluded to, there's significant natural resources here that China wants. And the U.S. would be wise to remember one thing: the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, you're right, Dan. China, they don't really have a fantastic humanitarian record. So why are they positioning themselves as the savior of the Afghan people? Is it all for those resources and for the control?
Well, their record on human rights, let's call it as it is, stinks on ice. But do the people in Afghanistan really know that? I don't think so. Keep in mind how China operates, and it's difficult for us to see it in the way we live our lives. China has 1.4 billion people. How does a dictator keep all those people under control? And control is the key word. They give them just enough. Now, when you talk about providing food to the people, China is not providing steak and lobster. They're just giving them enough where it's better than what they have. These people in Afghanistan are desperate. So China comes in, they give them just enough where it's better than what they have, and they say, you know what? China, well, it's pretty good with them. So there's no reason not to support them because our lives have improved. And that it comes down to the basic needs. And many people in Afghanistan don't have that. Yeah. China provides it, and the loyalty goes to China.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Seth, what kind of sanctions are being imposed by the U.S. and other allies? And what do you expect the Taliban to do now that they're back in power?
Well, listen, sanctions have been around against Afghanistan, but specifically the Taliban, since the 90s when they were a known sponsor of al-Qaeda. And quite frankly, these sanctions have just led the Taliban to maneuver the way that they generate assets differently. And it's estimated, even the UN just a year ago, when China controlled very little of Afghanistan, had a report showing that the Taliban generates up to $1 billion a year, actually, through their methodology. And so here's what's happening, though. The U.S. has frozen assets. The IMF, we've got about $10 billion in assets that are frozen. The Taliban now controls the entire country of Afghanistan and now is going to have infrastructure needs. Well, what does that mean? Desperation. And as Dan alluded to, China is there to lend the helping hand. They thrive on desperation. And so this is the reality of why China wants these rare earth materials, of which they already control 85% of globally. There's over $1 trillion worth in Afghanistan. They want it, and the Taliban's going to be up against the wall. So here's what the U.S. needs to do. They must declare Afghanistan, the new Taliban Afghanistan government, a state of terror. And if they can do that, and if they will do that, now it means that other countries are going to need to rally around this, and it will lock China down on what they can do.
Yeah, very scary, the fact that China's in there and they're making friends with the Taliban. Very scary. It's something that we really haven't talked a lot about, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about it in the future. All right. Thank you so much, Seth Denson and Dan Geltrude, for coming on the show. Always great to have you.
Thanks, Allie.